A police dog wouldn't stop barking at a traveler's luggage, drawing puzzled looks from passengers and security alike. But when officers finally opened the bag, what they found sent shock waves through the entire airport. Here's what happened. But before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow at the same time we'll bring you another unforgettable story of heroism and sacrifice from the world's most extraordinary military kinds. The fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow across Terminal 3 of Chicago O'Hare International Airport as Officer Emma Reynolds adjusted her winter patrol jacket, her breath visible in the pre-dawn chill seeping through the automatic doors beside her. Atlas, her German Shepherd partner of 4 years, maintained perfect heel position, his dark eyes scanning the steady stream of travelers with practiced intensity. Emma checked her watch. 5:45 a.m. the morning international arrivals would start flooding in soon, bringing with them the controlled chaos she'd grown accustomed to over her 6 years with the airport's Canine unit. But something felt different about this December morning, a subtle tension in the air that made her skin prickle. Ready for another day, buddy? She murmured, reaching down to scratch Atlas's ear. The shepherd leaned into her touch briefly before returning to his vigilant posture. Emma smiled, remembering the first time she'd met those intelligent eyes at the training facility. Atlas had been different from the other police dogs, calmer, more calculated, with an almost uncanny ability to read situations. That perception had saved lives more than once. The terminal began filling with early morning travelers, their rolling suitcases creating a rhythmic symphony against the polished floors. Atlas moved with fluid grace between bags and passengers, conducting his routine security sweeps with military precision. Every few minutes he would glance back at Emma, their years of partnership evidence in the subtle communication between them. Morning. Reynolds called Officer Mike Dawson from his post near the security checkpoint. Atlas looking sharp as ever. Emma nodded in greeting, watching Atlas work. The shepherd's black and tan coat gleamed under the terminal lights, his movements effortless despite his impressive size. They just passed the luxury retail section when Atlas's behavior shifted subtly, a change so slight that only Emma would have noticed it. His ears pricked forward, nose working overtime as he tracked an invisible scent trail. Emma felt her pulse quicken, years of experience telling her to trust her partner's instincts. Atlas had never been wrong, not once in 4 years of service among the sea of designer luggage near the premium airline check-in. Atlas's focus locked onto a particular travel trunk, a handcrafted leather piece that probably cost more than Emma's monthly salary. Its owner, a well-dressed Asian man in his 40s, stood nearby, tapping away on a high-end smartphone while speaking quietly into a Bluetooth earpiece. Atlas's posture changed dramatically, the casual fluid movement of routine patrol transformed into rigid alertness, his tail straight and muscles tense. Emma recognized his body language. This wasn't his normal reaction to prohibited items or even narcotics. This was something different. Sir. Emma approached the man, keeping her voice professional while positioning herself between him and the nearest it. I'm Officer the Reynolds with Airport Police. Would you mind stepping over here with your luggage? The man looked up from his phone, his expression a perfect mask of polite confusion. Is there a problem, officer? His English was perfect, his manner cultured and confident. The name tag on his luxury trunk read Marcus Chen with first class stickers from multiple international carriers. Just a routine check, sir. Your cooperation would be appreciated. Emma W. As Chen's eyes darted between her Atlas and the terminal exits, years of training had taught her to spot the subtle tells the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his manicured fingers tightened. Around his phone, Atlas's low growl rumbled through the terminal, drawing curious glances from passing travelers. This wasn't just alert behavior anymore. This was a warning Emma had only heard this specific vocalization twice before in their partnership, and both times had led to major cases. My flight to Vancouver leaves in 40 minutes, Chen protested, his composure cracking slightly. I have an important business meeting. This won't take long if everything's in order, Mr. Chen, Emma interrupted, noting how he flinched at the use of his name. Atlas positioned himself between Chen and his luggage, his training kicking in without command. The morning bustle of the terminal seemed to fade into background noise as Emma keyed her radio control K97, requesting backup at premium check-in terminal 3. Possible situation developing. She kept her eyes trained on Chen, who had stopped typing on his phone, his earlier irritation replaced by something darker, more calculated. Atlas's growl deepened as Chen shifted his weight slightly, preparing to move. Emma had seen that look before, the moment when a suspect decides whether to comply or run. Her hand moved instinctively toward her holster. Sir, please remain where you are, she commanded, but she could see the calculation in Chen's eyes, the subtle tensing of his muscles. The terminal seemed to hold its breath as Atlas's warning growl reached a crescendo. Time seemed to slow as Chen made his decision in one fluid motion. He hurled his phone at Emma's face and bolted, shoving a luggage cart into Atlas's path. Emma ducked the phone, missing her by inches as Atlas expertly maneuvered around the tumbling bags with the agility that had made him legendary among the K9 unit. Stop, airport police. Emma's voice cut through the terminal chaos as she pursued Chen. Atlas, already moving to flank their suspect travelers, scattered some filming with their phones. As the chase unfolded, Chen's expensive leather shoes clicked against the polished floor as he weaved through the crowd with surprise ring agility. Terminal 3, Gate 7, suspect fleeing east. Emma radioed, her breath steady as years of training kicked in. Asian male, charcoal suit, approximately 40 years old. Atlas had already anticipated Chen's trajectory, cutting through a shortcut between airline counters to head him off. Officer Mike Dawson appeared at the end of the concourse, forcing Chen to veer sharply toward the maintenance corridors. That's when Emma noticed something that made her blood run cold. Chen had triggered something on a small device in his hand just before running. Possible remote activation device will be by she updated dispatch following Atlas. Through the service door, the fluorescent lights flickered in the narrow corridor, their harsh glow creating dancing shadows as they pursued their target. The temperature dropped significantly in the maintenance area, their breath visible in the chill. Atlas's bark echoed off the concrete walls, his special alert that told Emma they were close. The sound had barely faded when a stack of plastic containers crashed down behind them, blocking their exit route. Chen had been busy during his brief head start. You really should have just let me leave. Officer Reynolds. Chen's voice bounced off the walls, making it difficult to pinpoint his location. Some questions are better left unasked. The distant rumble of aircraft taking off vibrated through the structure, adding to the disorienting acoustics. Emma moved carefully, Atlas at her side, both scanning for movement in the shadowy space. Mr. Chen, you're only making this worse for yourself, she called out, hearing the backup team securing the outer exits. Whatever you're involved in, we can talk about it. Chen's laugh echoed through the corridor. Talk like Officer Reeves wanted to talk 3 months ago in Seattle. The name hit Emma like a physical blow. Karen Reeves, a K9 handler who'd been hospitalized after a seemingly routine luggage check. The case Of been classified immediately all. Details locked down Atlas's ears. Suddenly pricked forward his head. Turning sharply toward a utility room. Emma approached cautiously, weapon drawn. The door was ajar, cool air seeping out. Into the already chilly corridor inside. Chen's expensive travel trunk sat prominently in the center of the room. Its latches now glowing with an ominous blue light. Fascinating animals, police. Dogs. Chen's voice came from somewhere in the shadows. Such loyalty, such incredible sense of smell. Did you never wonder why Atlas reacts differently to certain packages? Emma's tactical flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing empty chemical storage shelves and discarded maintenance equipment. Atlas's growl took on a new urgency. Not tracking now, but warning. Something about that trunk was very, very wrong. Terminal 3. Maintenance sector C. Emma keyed her radio, requesting hazmat team and EOD unit. Possible CBR threat. She remembered Atlas's unusual reaction upstairs. Unlike his normal alerts for drugs or explosives, Chen hadn't just been smuggling contraband. This was something far more sinister. Smart girl. Chen emerged from behind a large electrical panel, his earlier executive demeanor completely gone. But you're a bit late. The countdown started the moment I triggered the failsafe. You have a choice now, Officer Reynolds. Chase me or deal with that trunk. You can't do both. As if on cue, the trunk's latches began pulsing faster, a faint hissing sound barely audible over the building's mechanical systems. Atlas's bark became more insistent, pushing Emma back from the doorway with his body, a behavior he'd only exhibited during their chemical detection training. The sound of running feet and radio static told Emma backup was nearly there. Chen smiled, pulling a small oxygen mask from his jacket pocket. Time to decide, officer. Your dog knows what's in that trunk. The question is, are you willing to bet everyone's lives that you can stop both me and it? Emma's mind raced through protocols, training scenarios, everything she'd learned in 6 years of K9 work. Nothing had prepared her for this moment. Atlas looked up at her, waiting for command, trusting her completely despite the growing danger. The trunk's hissing grew louder. Atlas guard. The command was barely out of her mouth when her partner sprang into action, launching himself at Chen with precision that came from countless training hours. The oxygen mask went flying as Atlas took Chen down, his jaws securing a hold on the suspect's arm with controlled pressure, enough to stop him, not enough to cause serious injury. Emma rushed to the trunk, her heart pounding. Up close she could see it wasn't just expensive leather. The walls were lined with some kind of containment system, and what looked like a sophisticated pressure regulation unit was built into the frame. The latches were connected to a timer that was counting down with alarming speed. Control suspect secured, she called into her radio. But we need that hazmat team here now. Atlas is showing chemical detection behavior, possible airborne threat. The cavalry arrived in a wave of tactical gear in emergency lights. As Chen was secured by other officers, Emma caught the look of surprise on his face. He hadn't expected her to be able to stop both him and secure the trunk. What he hadn't counted on was the absolute trust between handler and K9, the seamless teamwork that made such decisions instinctive. But as the hazmat team rushed in with their sensors and containment gear, Emma knew this was just the beginning. Chen's words about Officer Reeves and Atlas's unique reactions hinted at something much bigger than a single smuggling attempt. Whatever was in that trunk was going to change everything. She could feel it in her bones. Atlas returned to her side, alert but calm now that the immediate threat was contained. Emma scratched his ears, noticing how the tactical team gave him a wide berth of respect. Good boy, she whispered, but I have a feeling our day Is just getting started. The hazmat team sensors started screaming 3 hours. Later Emma sat in the airport secure briefing room watching Atlas rest beside her chair. His dark eyes occasionally tracked the movement of Homeland Security agents and CDC officials who hurried in and out, their hushed conversations carrying an edge of barely controlled panic. The contents of Chen's trunk had triggered every hazardous material alarm in the hazmat team's arsenal, but it was Atlas's specific reaction that had everyone worried. As another group of suited officials rushed past, Emma's mind drifted back to the day she'd first met Atlas 2 years after the incident that had nearly ended her career. The Kentucky Canine training facility had been sweltering that August morning, the air thick with humidity and the sound of barking dogs. Emma hadn't wanted to be there. Her supervisor had practically ordered her to consider a new partner after 18 months of working desk duty. You need to meet this one. Reynolds Sergeant Maria Torres had insisted, leading her to a separate kennel area. He's different, rescued from a bad situation, but his detection abilities are off the charts. Problem is, he won't work with just anyone. Emma had been ready to refuse the memory of her previous partner's death still too raw. Officer James Mitchell had been more than just her partner. He'd been her mentor, the one who taught her everything about K9 handling. The raid that killed him had left her with both physical and emotional scars, including a long scar along her left ribs that still act in cold weather. But then she'd seen those eyes. Atlas, still unnamed at the time, had watched her with an intelligence that seemed almost human. Unlike the other dogs who barked and jumped, he'd simply studied her, his head tilted slightly as if reading her soul. Found him in a raid on an illegal testing facility, Torres had explained softly. Someone had been experimenting with enhancing K9 olfactory capabilities. Most of the dogs didn't survive the procedures, but this boy, she paused, shaking her head, he can detect things other dogs can't. Things are best equipment sometimes misses, but the trauma left him unable to trust easily. Emma remembered kneeling despite her protesting muscles, meeting that steady gaze. Atlas had approached cautiously, his own scars visible beneath his fur. When he'd finally pressed his head against her hand, Torres had gasped, "That's the first time he's approached anyone voluntarily," she whispered. "I think he recognizes something in you, Reynolds. Sometimes the deepest wounds create the strongest bonds." A gentle nudge against her leg brought Emma back to the present. Atlas had sensed her distress at the memory, offering comfort as he always did. She smiled, remembering how they'd healed each other over the years that followed. Officer Reynolds, a CDC official, approached his badge, identifying him as Dr. Harris. "We need to talk about your partner's reaction to the substance we found." He sat down across from her, his expression grave. "Have you ever seen him alert like that before?" Emma straightened in her chair. "Twice," she confirmed. "Once at a cargo facility in Detroit, but the shipment disappeared before we could investigate. The second time was," she paused, her throat tightening, "the second time was the day Officer Reeves was hospitalized in Seattle." Dr. Harris leaned forward. "Tell me about Seattle." "It was a routine assistance call," Emma recalled. Karen, Officer Reeves had requested Atlas. Specifically, her own K9 had alerted to something in a diplomatic shipment, but they needed confirmation before they could breach international protocols. Atlas reacted the same way he did today, trying to push us back from the container before we could secure the area. There was some kind of pressure release. Karen was closest. She swallowed hard. "She survived, but she's still in long-term care. The case was classified immediately, and you never questioned why they specifically requested Atlas." Emma met his gaze steadily. Atlas's background isn't exactly secret in Canine circles. Some handlers call him the miracle dog because of his unusual detection abilities after what he survived in that testing facility. Dr. Harris interrupted, is exactly why we're here. He placed a file on the table. What your partner detected today wasn't just any chemical weapon. It was something engineered to be undet detectable by standard methods, something that only a dog with enhanced olfactory capabilities could smell. He paused. Significantly, something like what they were trying to create in the facility where Atlas was found. The implications hit Emma like a physical blow. Atlas pressed it against her leg, grounding her as the pieces started falling into place. The diplomatic shipments Karen's classified case-specific comments about Atlas's abilities. They're weaponizing the research. She breathed. The same people who she looked down at Atlas, at the scars hidden beneath his fur, and felt a surge of protective rage. How high up does this go? Dr. Harris's expression was grim. That's what we need to find out, and right now your partner is our best chance at tracking these shipments. The question is, are you prepared for what that means? These people have already shown they'll do anything to protect their operation. Emma felt Atlas's solid presence beside her, remembered the trust in his eyes that first day at the training facility. They both survived. Attempts to break them had forged something stronger from their shared pain. Now they had a chance to stop the people responsible, not just for Karen's injury, but for all the dogs who hadn't survived that testing facility. When do we start? She asked, her hand resting on Atlas's head. A commotion outside the briefing room interrupted Dr. Harris's response. Agent Torres, now with Homeland Security, burst in her face, pale. We've got a problem, she announced. Chen's diplomatic credentials just cleared. His people are here to take him into custody, claiming diplomatic immunity. She met Emma's eyes, and they're demanding the return of their property. Atlas's low growl echoed through the room. The underground parking level of O'Hare's Terminal 3 echoed with footsteps as Emma and Atlas took position behind a concrete pillar above them. The diplomatic security team was preparing to transport Chen and his diplomatic cargo, a move that would erase any chance of exposing the operation. All units in position, crackled Emma's earpiece. Dr. Harris and Agent Torres had worked quickly, coordinating with trusted FBI units to set up an intercept. They had one chance to prevent Chen's extraction, but the risk was enormous. One wrong move trigger an international incident. Emma checked her tactical vest, then looked at Atlas. His eyes were fixed on the service elevator, the only way up from this level. They'd been through countless operations together, but never with stakes this high. Target descending came the alert foreman security detail. 2 diplomatic officials. Chen is wearing a suit with biohazard protection. Underneath, they're moving the trunk. Separately, Emma felt her scar twinge in the garage's cold air, remembering another underground confrontation that had ended in tragedy. As if sensing her thoughts, Atlas pressed briefly against her leg, their private signal that he had her back. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime that seemed impossibly loud. In the tense silence, Chen emerged first, flanked by men whose expensive suits couldn't quite hide their military bearing. Behind them, 2 more agents wielded the trunk on a specialized cart, its latches now dark. Inactive. Atlas find, Emma whispered, it was a variation of their training command, one they developed over years of partnership. Atlas began moving silently through the shadows, using the parked vehicles as cover while Emma maintained visual on the group. Chen was speaking rapidly in Mandarin to one of the officials, his confidence fully restored now that he believed himself protected by diplomatic Immunity. That's when Atlas gave the signal, a specific head tilt. That told Emma he'd found something. Control K9 unit confirms additional devices in their vehicle, Emma said softly into her radio. Same signature as the trunk. Copy that. Agent Torres responded. That's our probable cause. All units prepare to move. On my mark. Emma watched as the group approached their waiting convoy. 3 black SUVs with diplomatic plates. They were almost to the vehicles when Atlas's head snapped toward the trunk. Emma had learned to trust those instincts without question. The trunk's reactivating, she shouted into her radio. All units, chemical threat active. Everything happened at once. The security team reached for weapons as FBI teams emerged from cover. Chen lunged for the trunk's control panel while his diplomatic escort shouted about international law and sovereignty, but Emma's focus was entirely on Atlas, who had already launched into action with incredible precision. Atlas targeted the handler pushing the trunk's cart, knocking him away from the device without seriously injuring him. Emma moved simultaneously, using the distraction to tackle Chen before he could reach the controls. Years of training with Atlas made them an almost supernatural team, each anticipating the other's moves. Everybody down. Dr. Harris's voice boomed through the garage as a hazmat team rushed in. Chemical containment protocols in effect. Chen struggled beneath Emma's grip. His carefully cultivated poise shattered. You have no idea what you're interrupting, he snarled. This is bigger than countries, bigger than laws. We're trying to advance human potential by torturing dogs. Emma tightened her hold as Atlas kept the other security members at bay by experimenting on innocent animals until you found one that survived. By turning that research into weapons. That dog, Chen spat, glaring at Atlas, is proof that our methods work. Enhanced senses, increased intelligence. Imagine those capabilities in human subjects. The rage Emma felt at his words must have shown in her face, because Chen actually flinched. Atlas, she called her voice steady despite her anger. Guard. Atlas immediately took up position, watching Chen, allowing Emma to assist with securing the other suspects. The hazmat team had already contained the trunk, preventing whatever release Chen had tried to trigger. Officer Reynolds, Agent Torres, approached looking grimly satisfied. The diplomatic credentials just came back, flagged their forgeries. High quality but definitely fake. Chen and his entire team are being taken into federal custody. Emma nodded, watching as Chen was led away in handcuffs, his dreams of diplomatic immunity evaporating. Atlas returned to her side and she knelt to check him over, remembering all he'd survived to reach this moment. Good boy, she whispered, pressing her forehead to his. Around them, federal agents were already coordinating with international authorities. The conspiracy Chen had helped expose beginning to unravel, but for Emma the most important victory was the one standing right beside her, proof that sometimes the deepest wounds really did create the strongest bonds. 1 month after the Chen's arrest, Emma stood at her usual post in Terminal 3, watching the morning sun stream through the massive windows. Atlas sat alertly beside her, his new commendation medal catching the light. The events of that December morning had changed airport security protocols across the country, but for Emma the biggest changes were more personal. The investigation had uncovered a network spanning 3 continents, leading to the liberation of dozens of dogs from testing facilities similar to the one where it had been found. Karen Reeves had wept when Emma visited her in recovery, sharing the news that the people responsible for her injuries were finally facing justice. You've got quite a partner there, Dr. Harris had said during the final briefing, watching Atlas charm the entire federal task force. Despite his fierce reputation. His enhanced abilities may have been forced on him through cruel experiments, but what he chose to do with those abilities, that's all him and you. Emma smiled now, remembering the ceremony where Atlas had received his commendation. He'd remained perfectly composed as the chief of police attached the medal, but his tail had started wagging the moment Emma knelt to hug him. Some bonds went beyond training, beyond duty, beyond even the incredible capabilities science could enhance. A young girl approached cautiously, her mother hovering nearby. "Can I pet him?" she asked, eyes wide with admiration. Emma looked at Atlas, who was already gently wagging his tail. "Of course," Emma replied, watching as Atlas delicately accepted the child's attention, looking at him now. Few would guess the trauma in his past, or the sophisticated biological modifications that made him unique among kinds. What showed instead was his heart, his choice to use his abilities to protect, to serve, to forge a partnership that had helped bring down an international conspiracy. "He's a hero," the girl declared solemnly, making Emma smile. "Yes, he is," she agreed, scratching Atlas's ears, "but more importantly, he's my partner." Atlas looked up at her with those intelligent eyes, and Emma felt that familiar surge of gratitude. Sometimes the most extraordinary partnerships emerged from the darkest circumstances, and the strongest heroes were the ones who chose to rise above their trauma to protect others. Together they turned back to their duty, watching over the morning crowds. Just another day for the K9 unit, but then again, with Atlas by her side, no day was ever really ordinary. What would you do if you discovered your pet had special abilities? How far would you go to protect them from people who might want to exploit those abilities? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed the incredible bond between a K9 and their handler? Tell us about your experience. We'd love to hear your stories. If you were moved by Atlas and Emma's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another incredible K9 tale. Share this video with anyone who believes in the extraordinary bond between humans and dogs. Check out our previous K9 stories appearing on your screen now, and remember, every dog has a story, but some change the world. Stay tuned for more amazing stories coming your way.